The whole time, well, not the whole time, but at like one point when he was talking about road maps, I just kept hearing Back to the Future, where we're going, we don't need roads. But
maps.
I mean, what? Maps?
Where we're going, we don't need road maps.
Map, I see. You were trying to complete the joke for me.
Yeah. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, and welcome to Talking Too Loud with Chris Savage. I'm your host, Chris Savage. I am joined by Sylvie Lubau, as always. Here we are, back again.
Hey, guys. Hello.
New setup for you today. Looks great.
Trying different things, moving things around. Got to keep everybody on their toes, including me, including myself.
Got to keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Am I seeing the same image? No, it looks like it's like a bizarre mirror, but it sounds like it's not.
It's not.
Great.
It's part of a triptych.
Classic. A triptych. I love a good triptych. I've made a few triptychs in my day. Speaking of people who I don't know if they've made triptychs, Hiten Shah is here as our guest today. He's the CEO and co-founder of Nira. He's been building Saas companies for 20 years. He's got 4 years on me, so a lot of insights, I'm sure, that I don't have. So excited to have him here. He's also the founder and creator of Crazy Egg, which I know tons of people use, Kissmetrics, which is when I think I first met Hiten. And I'm excited to have him with us. He's a guy who loves building product and who has strong opinions, and it's going to be a fun one.
He's a hot take king.
The hot take king. The hot take king. Yeah.
Hiten, the hot take king.
Speaking of hot takes, what's got you talking too loud, Sylvie?
Okay. What's got me talking too loud? Well, I was trying to think of a hot take.
Yeah, what's your hottest take right now?
My hottest take right now. Shit. My hottest take right now is that Djokovic is going to win the Australian Open. It's my hottest take. It's probably not that hot.
Okay. I forgot you're still so deeply into tennis now.
Yeah, it's so fun to watch. And every time I watch it, I'm like, that's it. I'm signing up for tennis lessons. I'm ready to double down. I'm ready to be a player on the court.
I'm ready to be a player. I'm ready to be a player. You know, I've been inspired by Djokovic. I'm ready to be a player. Tennis is like your F1.
It is. It is like my F1. Good analogy.
And, the people who made Drive to Survive, the F1 show, made Breakpoint on Netflix. Have you seen that?
I know. I haven't seen Breakpoint, but it's on my queue.
I was like, let me just see if I like this thing. And I watched. I got super into it. And I was like, this is why tennis is so great. This is why I just love this so much.
What's your hottest talking too loud take right now?
My hottest talking too loud take. I'm pretty high on New England right now. I'm pretty high on like just how sick it is that, I live in Providence, Rhode Island. I think it was last weekend. It was like probably 40 degrees here. It's like abnormally warm. But we're like, we wanted some snow. We got to hit the snow. So we drove up to Portland, Maine, and like went cross country skiing and sledding. Aww. And it was like, just under 3 hours or so to get there. I'm like, that's amazing.
That's so
I live in
nice.
this place. It's like, this is like, it could be warm here and it could be snow there. And I'm tired of people in the Bay Area telling me just how great Tahoe is. Oh, and I have perfect weather in San Francisco, slightly foggy, but nice in October. And then, and now we all got that too. We have that too. Okay. So that's my hottest take. New England, everything's only 3 hours away.
Wow. You are like a poster boy for New England right now. That's you.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, huge F1 head. Mm-hmm. Tech. Mm-hmm. It doesn't sound like things you'd find in New England, but here we are. Speaking of people you don't find in New England, let's cut over to that interview with Hiten Shah. Hiten, so good to see you, man. Thanks for being on the show.
It's great to see you. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I was just, Sylvia, right before. First of all, Hiten was early for the recording. He beat me here.
You were early. I was late.
You were late, but he's here. I show up. He's here in advance.
The early bird gets the worm. That's all. That's what I said when he came on. I was like, before I said anything else. So
I feel like we need the early bird should get something else. Like, let's retire worm.
The cash? The early bird gets the cash.
How about that? I like that.
Okay, great. Well, I was saying that last time Heten and I caught up was last summer. I called him for advice. Or 2021, actually. So like a year and a half ago. And I a lot of things in that conversation stuck out to me, Heten, and like we took a bunch of the stuff and used it. It was like really helpful. And I would say thank you for that. And I'm excited for this conversation because I don't know where we're going. I don't know what we're going to pull out of this, but I know we're going to get some exciting insights.
We're not going to talk about offsites though, right? And in-person meetings for remote teams. We're not going to talk about any of that, right?
If you don't, as long as you don't want to.
No, we can talk about whatever you want. But
yeah.
you tweeted about it, and it didn't trigger me, but there are some things. But anyway,
I do want to get into that. Yeah. But the first thing I have to start with is I have to know what's got you talking too loud right now.
Ooh. Oh yeah. Oh no.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
I can get into that mode on almost anything. That's why I'm like, oh no. You know, the thing that is like on my mind, because I'm just seeing just a bunch of stuff related to it, is how bad most products are.
Ooh.
And this is probably a common theme for me anyway, as you probably have some idea of. Sometimes I rant on Twitter, but a lot less lately because I have a lot of work to do at my company and I'm really focused on that work. But and it's not product work, so that's probably why I get to go bitch and moan about it, so to speak, in other areas. But that's got me speaking loudly because I think that the products that we use today, and I'm specifically talking about B2B products, I think consumer products have no room for this. Yeah. But they're wasting our time. And with AI coming up, I don't think we're at a place where they're going to waste less of our time. I think they're going to waste more of our time because of AI until we settle into whatever the new normal of products and user experiences are with AI. Because a lot of people are trying AI products. They're probably not working as well as the promises there, or the promises that are made. But more importantly than that, like I'm today selling a B2B product. It's very mid-market and heading into enterprise really fast. And one of the reasons like we have to build what we are the way we are is because the products that are out there are failing the customers that we target. And that just makes me kind of upset. So
let's go deeper into that. Like why are there so many products that are bad? What makes a bad product?
I think a bad product is one where, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest thing I would point out is like when the customers are frustrated when they're using the product. And I think that's very hard to tell for most companies that are large or have built these enterprise B2B products. Another factor that I really harp on, and some of this you can get away with in the early days and later on you can't, but like we don't have a support site for my company. We've been in this business, we pivoted, so we've been in this business about 18 months. There's no support site. There's no support pages. And that is intentional because if we need support pages, there's something wrong at this stage. And so that's where my head is. We do have support material. It is a customer success function, but it's not a support site. We don't link people to it, and it's not done that way. And so that's probably the most like...
That's bold.
Yeah, I know. And
yes,
I see Savage. Savage is like raising his eyebrow.
Yeah, I'm ready. I have many questions.
And I ran support as CEO as well for the first 2 years of my last two companies. And so this is not coming from like ignorance. It's actually coming from the opposite of awareness of the minefield of support docs and the maintenance of them and the crutch that the team across the board would use them as if we actually had them. And then how bad the product would get as a result of having those docs this early, because then people in the company would start saying, oh, we'll just explain it in the support docs.
Okay, so explain to the audience, like, what is Nira? And then also how, I mean, you've always been someone who I think has really strong opinions. And you have a lot of experience and you're quick to like take the experience and what you're seeing and apply it together. Like when we were talking about product managers like 18 months ago and you had some very strong feelings about that. And it was very helpful because the strong feeling is easier to react to and understand like where you fit with. And the fact that, I mean, I didn't realize you have no support docs. I go to your website. Well, you're saying that. I'm like, this seems true. And I understand it, but I think give people the context on Nira and then give people the context on how do you even decide to go do that? Because it's so different than what everybody else is doing.
I hope my opinions are loosely held. So I'm willing to change my mind just to just to give that anecdote. So I'm even happy to change my mind today. But what Nira is it's a tool that helps you basically protect company information from unauthorized access. The unique thing about Nira is that like it solves a problem that pretty much even employees, managers, executives have, but we're specifically selling the product to IT departments. The other unique thing about us is we're selling a security product to the IT department. And there's a bunch of reasons why, which we can get into if it makes sense, but that's kind of the TLDR. The simple truth is there's no way to see every item in, let's say, Google Workspace, so all the documents, and manage who has access to them on a administrative and security level. That might sound absurd because you would think Google, even Microsoft and others would have built these things, but they've been so focused on the collaboration side and the kind of equivalent of the consumer end user side and the employee side that the admin tooling is inadequate. And then more importantly, that admin tooling does not go across tools when you're dealing with Microsoft or Google. And the way this has all come about is that we're now dealing with more collaboration happening in those tools. Those tools are moving fast at adding even more capabilities around collaboration. And the administrative and security functions can't keep up with how fast those things are moving. And those companies will just toss these teams APIs. And they'll say, hey, here's an API, go figure it out. So certain companies that are like mature, even the fast growing startups have large teams using those APIs and trying to build something close to what we have. Not a lot of teams, but enough teams where that was, a key data point for us. And you started seeing that, like, why do they build it in-house? And I've seen that over and over again in my career, at least. I don't call it a career, but it's a good way to describe it. As a founder, it's hard to have a career. This is kind of my statement. So I've seen this story before where it's like, if people are spending a lot of time and money building something internally, and it really should be a SaaS service or a product that other people can buy or whatever, sometimes those people come out and try to build it. In my case, we treat everything with first principles. We never dealt with IT people before. So we take a lot of notes when we do customer development. We're really staunchly on lean startup principles, customer development, things like that. And so we just want to build the right thing. What I like to say is I like to build new, different, and right. And I want to build teams that can do that. And that dovetails into the support stuff. But I'll pause there because I could go off on this stuff for a bit. But yeah, where do you want to go with it?
What I'm hearing is like, Wistia example, 175 employees. We use Google Docs. We use some Apple products. We use like different things to collaborate. In every one of these cases, it's like sometimes I'm inviting one person, sometimes I'm inviting 175, sometimes I'm inviting 10. Then you have people leaving and joining the company. You have people, every employee is doing this. There's like, literally millions of connection points across this. What you all are doing is basically saying like, we're going to make it easy to understand that full picture, check for unauthorized access, remove access when people leave, grant access maybe. Is that right?
So we're not an explicit offboarding and onboarding tool. There's a lot of those that exist. So the clarification would be, we're about the items in the tools, because those items are in near real time changing in terms of permissioning. So it's like, people can be added, and just some stats like an average of 13 collaborators on every document in Google across the board. And this is from Google itself saying this, and it's about 7 for Microsoft. So what you said is accurate. And then you have things like, does this document have a public link? Does this document have a company link? How old is this document? And data retention and legal teams and compliance and auditors, all this comes into play. And so this is the mess I've been learning about for the last few years, because I knew nothing about this until we got into it, which is my favorite place to be. Because then you can come in with a fresh eyes in a market that honestly our customers underserved. They have very little bandwidth, and they're burdened with making changes for almost everyone in the org.
Well, it's also just like, as you said, it's a mess. It's a mess out there. Like it's a complicated mess. And anyone getting in there and trying to get control over that is tough. And then also let's go towards like the support stuff. So you're dealing with a really messy problem with a lot of edge cases, I would imagine. How do you make it so that you don't have any support documentation?
So the familiarity people have with the interface is actually extremely important. And making sure that the role models that we used early on which were actually Gmail and Intercom. And so what I do, and previously, when we had an enterprise search product before we pivoted into this, we had integrated into 24 different APIs and tools and built this really cool interface for it. Our inspiration was actually Facebook's layout. And so what I'm always trying to do is figure out something after all the customer development work and the research of what's the problem to solve and some of the research of like alternatives to what we're trying to do. I'll spend some time trying to find user experience, user interface role models. And so even if you go to our homepage now, we finally have a screenshot. Now that I've told you the inspiration, you can look and be like, oh, right? That's where that theory came from.
Yes.
You can't just do this though and say, I'm doing that and this is the role model. You have to do the research to say, is it going to work with the way we want? And when we look at the products that are built from a B2B standpoint, they don't account for any of that. Or they're just picking a role model, just jamming features into the tool. I mean, in fact, like certain companies that are, you know, Fortune 100 companies have Fortune 100 customers of their own that have like 2 engineers supporting them for every feature they want. And they're just adding feature after feature into the product because the enterprise customer needed it. And that's how we got in this kind of mess of wasting everyone's time with this. So part of it is I don't want to waste anyone's time when they're using our products. So support docs waste time is the kind of ideology coming in. So then we don't have support docs because they waste time. So then what do? Well, today we're not a self-service product. We can focus on learning a lot more about where people get stuck and all those things. And it can be a little more high touch, if not a lot more, because our price points can dictate that in our sales process. So contextually, this works for us. That being said, even if we had a self-service product today, I'd probably feel very similarly and wouldn't have support docs if we could help it. Because it's basically like, where do you want to shift the responsibility of solving the problem for customers? Do you want to shift it to a customer support and success function? Do you want to keep it in product and engineering? And we've chosen to keep it in product and engineering instead of shift this burden to support and success. Well, what we see is a lot of companies stack the problem over on support and success. Guess what happens then? And I'll ask you, how many support people do you have today? How big is that team?
Yeah, we probably have 20 people.
Yeah. So 10% of your company, roughly, is support.
Yeah.
Well, holy
totally.
crap.
Yeah. No, it's, yeah.
I'm dying. It's
interesting because
it's a perspective that we haven't heard on this show, and I haven't really heard. I haven't heard. So
But
that's why my eyes are popping.
Yeah, you're dealing with someone that's probably a little more aged than Chris, not a lot, on building software. It's been 20 years, right? So I got to come up with something new every year, right? That like causes everybody to be like, what's going on? What are you talking about?
You're an agent of chaos, just like Savage.
Yeah, that's why we get along. So like, think of it this way, like there's so many layers to this problem, and people have historically thought it's okay to stack these areas with team members because they're cheaper than engineers, or whatever way you want to frame it, or you want to like really support customers and delight them or whatever. But that's just a solution to a problem we all have, which is our products need to constantly get better and become more usable, not less usable, as we add features. That's a whole nother topic, but that's a problem.
Yeah.
And if you pick the wrong structure or foundation for your product, this goes back to the role models, everything, it has implications down the line like a domino effect, right? Our implications are all positive and the dominoes are still standing, which is basically that we picked a good role model. So I'll say something else that's probably a little crazy, but I don't plan on adding product managers to the company.
There we go. There it is.
I will at some point, maybe.
How many people are on the team right now?
We're only 30 right now. Yeah.
And what percentage of the team is product and engineering?
Today it's like, I think 20 plus on product and engineering. Well, sorry, engineering. There is no product except
there's no product. So sorry,
my co-founder and I. Yeah.
Yes. So 2/3 of the company is engineering. You guys are, managing product stuff. Kind of. Maybe you should just go on this rant, the technical product manager rant. I feel like you should just let it loose.
Yeah. So the philosophy on the product managers, not that I hate product managers, love them. I have a whole email list, design around product and stuff. But it's basically about how do you get as close to the code as possible if your business is about code. And the way you get close to the code is by putting the onus on the engineers to figure out how to solve the problem. So the way we operate is that non-engineering product is about finding problems. Then we might propose a solution or something, but we're not dictating the solution. A lot of product management is about dictating the solution. Instead, what we do is, hey, here are the problems. Here's how we think they might need to be solved. And I'm talking about like bigger features, stuff like that. Little stuff just happens relatively fast and agile, if you want to call it that. And then basically, as we kind of go through that cycle, what happens is engineering gets better and better at their own specs and their own requirements. And because what I've learned is that a product spec is very different than an engineering spec. And I don't want two. So how do we have one? Well, you just make it all engineering. And then it's like engineering will solve the problem as much as they want. They have the ownership of solving the problem. Because I'd rather have the people that are writing the code understand more about what they're building and why, and not put so much of that onus on the communication from the product team about how we need to solve the problem and things like that. And so a traditional product management doesn't work that way, typically. And that's why, like, I don't think companies, it's the same as the support thing. It's like, where do you want this responsibility? And I'd rather have the responsibility fully on engineering for the solution. That way they take ownership of the solutions they produce. This has had tremendous impact for us. And here's why I say that. Already in B2B, you can be much slower, especially if you're mid-market or enterprise, from a product iteration cycle. If you're early like us, and this pains me to say it, probably building in a new category, and with IT and security, these categories do not show up. And every single category in the space, except one or two out of like 15 or 20, is failed. Like the customer doesn't use the terminology anymore. So when we heard all these kinds of things, we're just like, like the products suck. And how do we make a product that doesn't suck? We make sure that engineers take responsibility over the code they're writing, not as in like, did it work or not, but did it hit the mark or not? And it's not their responsibility to judge it. It's ours as non-engineering product people, but it's their responsibility to get it right. That's kind of how we think about it. So that might be a more refined rant than the one we went with, but yeah.
No, it's very similar to the rant that you gave me. But it's interesting because like when we talked in 21, we were working on a lot of stuff, and then a lot of big things came out in 22. We launched like a video editor. We changed our pricing model, and we launched a live platform. And as you're talking, I was thinking a lot about our live platform because it went incredibly well. The launch went incredibly well. The product that came out of the gate was really good, but the iteration's been really fast. And what we saw is that we had like an engineering was truly in partnership with product on the solutions from the get-go. And when I was talking to you, that was not exactly how we were doing it. It was more just product first. And the difference is pretty remarkable. And you made a point, which I think is relevant to everybody, which is like, if someone's coming up with a solution and they don't code, they don't know how hard or easy that solution is. They don't know if that solution is going to work. They may be missing something that is 10 times better. And so if you don't actually have engineering involved early enough, you can miss the best products you could ever build, right?
That's right.
And I think that really resonated with me, and I thought a lot about it as we've been like evolving the way we've been working. And I mean, you're giving the goods today. You're sharing it all, and I hope anyone who's like watching or listening is like really taking notes on this. The other thing I would point out that I think is really interesting is, you know, when you talk about the role models and having the role models, I don't know that everyone always thinks like that. And
you know, I didn't either.
Yeah, and it can talk about that, like how do you get to that?
Yeah. I'll tell you who shoved that in my face without knowing it. David Cancel over at Drift, when he was building Drift. And he's someone who I have a lot of appreciation for what he has done and how he has done it. And I studied like how he did it. One of the reasons is I had to compete with him in the past. And then I became an advisor to Drift, so I didn't have to compete with them. And we had a good...
everything worked out.
It was never a bad relationship, but it was always like tenuous until then. Because he decided to get in the analytics game at some point and then sold to HubSpot. So then it was cool. But and I helped them with a bunch of other stuff, not product stuff too much. I have lots of opinions on how they did product, both good and bad. But the one thing I took away is they kept talking about role models constantly, almost every time I was talking to them. And they used that as a way to hack the process of getting started. That's the way I would describe it. For example, Drift started as a rip of Intercom. Like, point blank, I can say that. They would say that. It is fact. But the way they used the strategy to go from an Intercom rip to where they ended up was amazing to me. Because that role model, in their case, this wasn't the case for us, but in their case was used as a discovery method. You build that, you see how people use it, and then you find your differentiating points from there. It is very rare for anyone to think like that and do it like that from the get-go. But David Cancel is someone who's done it over and over again. And he has a specific style. Not saying it's for everyone. And he doesn't care about the rip in the beginning and the noise he gets from it. Because he got a lot of noise from it early on. And they did as a team. But it was almost like he took pride in that noise, if that makes sense. But as I watched the company iterate and them like slide around, they found opportunities Intercom completely missed. Even though Intercom's great at product, no one would say they're not, right? Even who are very critical, I can point shots at jobs to be done and their frameworks and some of the crap, but I can't say anything but great things about their team and how they build product to the point where they were one of our role models, right?
Yeah.
Gmail more so, though, for a number of reasons, but they were close because we had some things we had to do that were more like them. And so the role model concept is, I think, extremely powerful. And I'm always the one to do everything different. I don't want to copy. And once I realized the role model wasn't about copying, it was more about what's good for the customer and what are they familiar with.
Yeah,
and
get different faster.
Like you come into our tool, you've never seen it before, and we have something called an employee security portal. So even the employees are using our tool in a very specific fashion. And I've never seen this done before, but we did it. The tool that admins use and the tool that employees use are almost exactly the same, except the employee side has appropriate limitations. Admins can see everything across the company. Employees can only see their items. But it's basically the same interface. We just have like 3 or 4 areas not accessible for employees, right? And the employees are coming back to these IT people and saying something unheard of, which is, hey, we love that tool. Thank you. And the tool just spreads inside an org when someone uses it to say, oh crap, all these personal accounts are on my documents. I didn't know that. I removed them. Then, and this happened yesterday, that employee goes and tells their whole team, hey, you need to log into this tool and just clean this up because there's customer data we're leaking and we shouldn't. And the IT person had nothing to do with it, which is what IT and security wants. We wouldn't have been able to do that without having really strong role models that were good at user experience already. Gmail is obviously great at user experience. You could argue about some of their changes in the button colors on this crap or whatever, the blues or whatever. But from an information architecture standpoint,
it's very
great.
clear.
So,
Agree.
Yes.
Agree.
So Drift used the role model to discover a business, is how I'd say it. We use the role model to have a construct, and we really focus on the information architecture.
And then also to what you're talking about before, most products are bad. Like if you have the right role model and it's actually has a great, interface and experience, people understand it quickly. To your point, like I haven't heard of many IT tools that, teams are suggesting to each other that they should go use. But that's what ends up happening, right? If you end up differentiating in a place where there's lots of bad products or it's not well understood. You said something else, which is also like you have a few more years on me, which you do, and is great.
Not a lot.
And
So
no, but a few. You 16 for me. And I have to ask the question, I'm learning a bunch of stuff right now. I haven't really thought about the role model thing that much. We've talked about the technical product manager thing before. What are the other things now that you're doing that are like the hacks that those, like that extra time, that extra effort, like that extra learning that you're using that are really, accelerating or changing things for the business?
I feel very lucky. I feel very, very lucky to have met my co-founder. Our skills are complementary and the values on how we think about product and stuff are aligned, even though she came from CPG. So her last official job was about 6 or 7 years ago when she left, was at Diageo, and she had like 5 executive roles there, innovation, She did M&A before that, but very much on product on that side of the house. And the one thing that is probably the hardest thing for any organization to do is what I would say, and I've talked to folks at Buffer about this and they've repeated it back, is scale customer development as the company grows and make sure that that's still an ingrained thing. And I don't think it's just customer development. It's the concept of when you talk to a customer, a prospect, anyone that's gonna potentially use or buy your product, you know everything they said. And you can then map to so many things. So we have literally 5,000 pages in Google Docs across many different docs of notes. And Marie, my co-founder, is like the stickler on that. And she leveled me up there and I was already like into it. But now I'm just like, and the whole team's designed that way. The SDRs, the sales team, everybody.
So you're saying
you're mind readers, like you know exactly what they're going to say are their pain points. You know exactly what,
because we've taken so many notes. We could go back 3 years and be like, oh, that CIO said that 3 years ago, which maps to what this CIO said today. Oh crap. And if you don't have that, you can't build a roadmap. You can't ship what they need. I can tell you honestly today, based on all of that stuff we've done, we have an unlimited roadmap. Like there's no shortage of what to build, why to build it, how to build it. It's just more of the sequencing of how do we build it so we earn the right to keep building the next thing, which is sequencing is the trick, not prioritization, probably a separate rant. But like those notes are like the dirty secret that no one wants to hear, nobody wants to do, but they change the whole game for a whole business because you don't lose the data. You don't lose the information.
You're saying, because what a lot of people do is, you know, you have a sales rep who's having a bunch of conversations. They don't write it down, or they don't write it down in a centralized place. You go and ask the sales rep what customers want, and they tell you, but they don't remember everything. You know, their own biases are impacting what they're telling you about and blah, blah. And then multiply that across everybody. You don't actually have an accurate view. Now let's throw in the fact that like the team's changing. You know, some people who are sales reps are no longer sales reps. Some people have joined the company. Some people have left the company. You don't have the holistic brain.
Yeah, and the brain people think, like people at Stripe and other companies think it's documentation and a writing culture.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's a note-taking culture.
Okay.
Right? Because where do those documents and all those things come from? They come from either someone's brain, which usually is someone's notes.
Yeah.
So I would go back to the core and the root. The root isn't you need all these frameworks and documents, and you should have a document or writing culture, which I think is great. And we don't have that like Stripe does. But what we do have is the note-taking culture. And that allows us to just come back to that stuff. That allows us to, like today, if there's a feature, but hey, Marie, we've got this feature, like I think it should be one of like the next features we do or whatever. She's like, okay. And then she's like, I'm going to go find all the notes on that. I'm going to write up a doc and find it in like literally 20 minutes, 10 minutes. And she's got this doc, like 5 pages, 3 pages of everything we heard, who said it, when they said it. And it's like, oh, cool. Well, shit. Like, we don't even need to go talk to more people. We already have all those notes for some obscure thing that we're now going to have that we heard over and over again over like 3 years, right? Like, and that's also why no product managers today. Because when we get them, they need to, and they also need to be trained in this way. Not in what traditional crap they're trained in at Google or whatever company they come from or whatever the hell it is, because they're trained completely differently. And in fact, they don't even know how to learn about problems from customers most of the time because their job is so entrenched in writing specs.
That's interesting. What do you think of the tools that like automatically record, transcribe your meetings? Like, is that a replacement or what do you think?
Thank you. That's a layup. I think that anything that makes it so that your brain is not synthesizing what you're hearing is problematic. So if we were to do those recordings or anything like that, we would want to jointly summarize, if there were multiple people on the call, what we heard as soon as possible after the call so we could interpret what was really being said and our interpretation of it. I'm not saying those tools are bad, but they make people lazy. And so even like Gong and things like that, those are great for accountability, but people end up using them for notes. And that's why we don't do that. Also, our customer, I feel really weird when I get on a call and the record button's already hit. And our customers, IT and security teams, they feel even weirder. And if they say to record, we will absolutely record. But we do not like asking for the recording. And a lot of companies have done it where the gong thing shows up right away. They don't even ask you if it's okay to record. You know how pathetic that is?
That's not ethical.
Come on. Well,
Yeah.
it depends on your opinion. I think it's just pathetic. I think it's just wrong. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, don't record me without asking. And this stupid pop-up comes up and you're like, WTF. And like, my co-founder has gotten like pissed, and on some calls she never gets pissed when she's like, hey, don't record me. Because she didn't ask for it, right?
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah.
We use this tool in interviews called Pillar. Have you seen that one? Which has been helpful for us. And, you know, we ask everybody, like, is this okay? Basically. But one of the things that's been interesting is like fighting bias and stuff, because people will have their perception of how the interview went and they're trying to suss out all this information. Then we can go back and be like, we'll ask them to go back and say like, hey, can you take another look at the interview? And what I found is kind of to your point, like, if you were to rely only on the notes that are automatic, you miss sometimes like, oh, I did ask this question and they gave me a great answer, and I was getting ready for my next question. I wasn't ready. So it's an interesting thing trying to find the balance, because there's like an unlimited number of these tools now. And like, should you use all of them, or is it too much? When is it too much information? Or your point on like the synthesis of this and who's doing that is really, that's a big question, especially this world of AI. That's a big question. Like, who is doing it? Is it you or the machine?
I think we're headed into worse products because of that.
Yeah,
I really do, because the interpretation is everything, and if you can't interpret the stuff correctly, you're not going to build the right product. And not building the right product is death for companies.
And you're not trusting the machines to be able to interpret it correctly.
I haven't seen AI being able to interpret most things very accurately. I've seen them help you sort and filter and like get down to things, but then, you know, with Chat GPT 3 or whatever, like the amount of like false information in there is pretty high. So you can't even trust what you get from it. And I'm not knocking it. I love this stuff. Like, big on any new technology. I don't care what it is. Like, let's go dive in and figure it out. But we gotta be honest about the problems, right? So I think the over reliance on it is going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, and then we're going to see a cycle of that biting people somehow. Like, I don't know if it happens on product or other areas. I actually feel like it's going to happen on marketing first, but. Yeah.
I mean, well, that's like the whole, you know what? Let's not go too far down this, because I have other questions and we're now running low on time. Okay. I have to go back to the remote thing, and let me set the context, and then I want your opinion.
Yeah. Of course.
So we just did what we call a triannual business review, because we didn't like quarterly things. It was too much.
Okay.
And basically it's like, we have our OKRs that are set. We get together with like the directors and up in the business, and people present on like, they send everything in advance, so you can like read and watch stuff in advance. And we're trying to just have discussion. We've done this remotely. This time we're doing it in person. And the goal is like, we pre-COVID were very in person. Now we're extremely remote, but we still try to have these like events to help create more trust, like help make it easier for people to push back and argue and disagree when they're not in person. So we did that. It went well. It was super energizing. And it was interesting though, because like, I have a sense of where we're going to go, but I'll just say this point. Like, when we closed up, one of the things I said was like, look, we had a great, like, there was a lot of learning that happened in this room. There was a lot of like ad hoc stuff that happened, but to get this to happen when we're remote is different. Like, it takes much more conscious effort to like document, write up, send. You can't have the run in and all this kind of thing. And I find it hard, is the truth, like, to have this balance. Because on the one hand, so does a presentation, 3 people walk up to them and you have this like sync, but that inherently means that no one else knows what was said. It isn't in a public Slack room or whatever. So that's what we did. But I'd love your perspective. So because you had a strong reaction. So I'm wondering what it is.
So I've been an advisor to Buffer. I've been an advisor to Automatic. Those are 2 different spectrums of full on remote. So I have an advantage to most people on it. And then on top of that, I've done remote myself for 20 years. So here's the thing I notice about offsite and remote. People save, this is like the biggest one, I would say. People save important work for the offsite. I don't want that in my company. Not okay. Important work should happen all the time. I don't care if it's strategy work, tactical work, whatever. I don't think we need a chunk where we're doing something like that. And yes, as you scale, you need chunks of like, you know, planning and stuff like that. Totally get it. I don't want the requirement that we're in person to do those chunks. And I see that.
Yeah, because then you slow down and wait. Yes.
I saw it over and over again at both those companies. My conclusion about remote and it's still the same as most remote companies, about 70% as efficient at best compared to office. And some of these things are related to that. It's a little bit of a side note. So how I feel about offsites is if I can help it, and I'm not the only one that's in charge of this, so that's the caveat. But if I can help it and I have the wherewithal to like fight this, I will make sure we never have an offsite, ever. I will make sure nobody ever meets up in person as a company, like we're all going to meet up. Because that's one problem. Another problem is I actually believe those offsites are disruptive to work. I've been to offsites with Buffer. I've been to the enormous automatic offsites. I am not at all saying anyone else should take any of my advice on this, right? Because I understand how humans operate. I am not an introvert in the classic sense at all. And I love people, you know that, Chris, and like socializing and all that. But you know what, honestly, do people really want to do that with their company and their team? Let's like really put it out there for real, right? I didn't choose these people, so to speak. The team members did not choose these people as friends. And yes, you could be friends with people, you can do that. But so my whole attitude about this is like freedom of time, and people should have that. And if you create all these constructs where you need to be in person to get certain things done, even if it's really great work, strategy work, or whatever, I feel like you're kind of like going backward from where we've been trying to get to, as even a society.
Wow. Look, this is, you're a man of extreme opinions, and I love it. And I don't think we definitely don't agree on everything, but I love the way when you frame these problems and push that it causes me to think differently, and I'm sure it is going to cause our audience to think differently. There's actually also, Patrick Lancioni. I mean, I don't know him personally, but
I don't know him personally, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
He just I listened to some podcast he did recently who's talking about exactly what you're talking about, which is like the question of, in the world where now so many people want remote work, does that actually mean that we need to be more clear about do you want just true transactional work in that you do your job, you do it, it's this time, you walk away, you don't have to do anything else, or the people who want relationship building at work, which is a separate different thing. And what's confusing is everything in the middle, and just be more clear. Which extreme are you on?
We have a team member in Barcelona. I love him to death. He's one of my only reports. He's our growth manager. He does a lot of stuff for us on the marketing, whatever side. I've never met him in person. We have a content writer that's on our team. She's traveling.
Yeah.
She goes and has dinner with him. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
I love this guy. But I have no intention of ever seeing him in person in my life. If it happens, great, but there's no intention. Right? It's just really fascinating. I've never met him in person.
Yeah. No, that's wild. Look, we are basically out of time here, Hiten. And so there's so many other things I want to talk to you about. So if you're up for it, I think you should come back and do another episode.
Yeah,
part
more
2.
Than enough for it.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. Well, you heard it here first. Hiten will be back. We'll do a part 2 with Hiten. Where can people connect with you if they want to learn more?
Find me on Twitter, Hiten Shah. Fun story there. My dad's first car had that license plate. It was Hiten Nitin. That's my dad's name. Shah. So that's been my Twitter handle and my Gmail. So you can always try to email me too. It's all good. But yeah, it's HNSHAH on Twitter.
Hiten, thanks so much for being here. This was a delight. And
thanks for having me, Safe.
I look forward to the next episode when you come on.
Likewise.
All right, we set up that Hiten is the king of hot takes, but I hope that delivered. Don't you think? I think it did.
I feel like the way that Hiten at least builds companies today is just so different. Everything that he was saying, no support team, no product managers. My mind was just blah, blah, blah. I cannot compute. You were kind of laughing. You were kind of your eyebrow was going up. You don't agree with everything that he's saying. So where did you land during his hot takes?
I think where I land is Hiten knows the power of being different. Being different is a superpower. And doing things differently, doing the right things differently is a superpower, right? And it's pretty hard to learn things when everything feels nuanced, which I think a lot of the answers for me are Like the Triennial Business Review is a perfect example. Most of our stuff is remote. Like the majority of the work that we're doing, which I think is like the most important stuff, is the actual work itself, is remote. This thing is in person right now. And there were some people calling in remote. And like, I don't have the extreme opinion that he does that. I never want to see these people in person. So someone who's going to work at Wistia is going to want like huge flexibility, but they're going to want to feel connected. They're going to want that as part of the thing that they get. But it's when you hear that extreme thing, I just think to myself, like, which of these things can I steal? Which of these things, when it's said in its purest form, are the things that we can replicate and do over and over again, or can cause us to do something different, and almost like easier to learn from someone like Hiten than it is from someone who's giving you the full nuanced thing, because the truth is every situation is different. And always this comes down to what can you take away from a conversation? What can you take away from a learning, and how do you apply it? So there's a lot of stuff in what Hiten said that I think we can apply. And there's things from the last time we talked about where he said, no product managers. For me, we do have all that other infrastructure and customers and, people on success and support and sales, which is complicated. Having the product manager is incredibly important, but also having that like unified front between product manager and, in our case, like tech lead and designer is critical to solving those problems. And what he says is right. Like if a product manager makes this huge list of things to build and the engineers aren't involved, it won't work. But a lot of people do it like that. So yeah, I'm trying to pull the nuance out. I'm trying to listen really hard. I'm trying to question myself. And usually I learn more when I do that. So, it's like why it's so fun to chat with him.
Yeah. I think something I appreciate about Hiten is his boldness. Like he's bold, but he's also like, I'm not telling you to take my advice. So like he's able to be bold and share what he's sharing, but also not like prescriptive. So yeah, it's kind of up to you, listeners, watchers. Like, what do you want to take out of Hiten's talk?
And that's how you have to do everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like your biggest job in your job is to decide, which of this advice that I'm taking, which of this input should I be taking, should I actually do?
Totally. It kind of touches on something we talked about in the interview, which was like the automated like AI thing versus like the human interpretation. Yes. And like part of your job as a human, this feels like it's getting like sci-fi-y, but part of your job is
this is how we talk now. This is there's AIs around us that are doing things, and there's humans, and we have to work with them.
All right, we've derailed now, but
come on.
To punctuate it, I was just gonna say, like what you distill, that's top. Now I lost it. Now it's gone. It's gone.
No, you're saying it's important to figure out, like, you need to,
like,
you need
take
to
away
distill
what's right
things for
you.
yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
And you need to figure out what works. You need to feel comfortable with the risks that you're taking, the things that you're doing, that you believe in them. And I think that, a lot of what we're talking about is like, you're taking all this advice and trying to figure out which advice should you take, which should you not, when should you take a risk, when should you do something differently. It's about training the instinct so that you're ultimately making better decisions when things are really complex. And, someone like Hiten is an amazing person to train your instinct with, because he's so bold and he has so many different opinions, and he really does think from first principles. It can accelerate that, I think.
Damn.
So
take what you want from the Hot Take King.
There you go. Well,
slogan.
That's the slogan. Take what you want from the Hot Take King. And we want to take from you reviews and feedback. So please email us at ttailpod@wistia.com if you have ideas for guest topics. If you have questions for Hiten for the next time he's on, please send them in, ttailpod@wistia.com. Or you can find us on Twitter. I'm C Savage on Twitter. Sylvie, give me the loot. Also on LinkedIn. You can always email us. And the last thing I would say is, if you like the show, please rate and review it wherever you listen to it. That helps spread the word. It helps more people find the show, helps us out, and we appreciate it.
Sweet.
And we have to start giving away these hats.
Oh, yeah.
The loud hats.
Give away the hats.
We'll come up with that for next time.
Start with me. Then I'll put
we'll
the
give
hat
a hat
on,
away to you. Okay.
Then I'll have the idea. But I need the hat first,
We can do that.
Okay.
All right. Bye, Sylvie.
Bye, Savage.